Welcome to Paul Lawson Chats, a podcast for helpers. In each episode, we'll hear stories from folks from various companies and organizations who are making a real difference by bringing positive change and infusing radical good into their workplaces, communities, and world. All right. Hey, all, it's Paul. I'm here with a dear friend, a very, very good friend of mine, Johel Woodliff, who is he's a safety legend here, a big deal in the safety world here in Columbus. Johel Woodliff of Miles-McClellan Construction. He's here with me today to talk about mental health and how it has permeated the way he runs safety. Johel, how are you?
I am jovial today, Paul. How are you?
You said you're jovial.
Jovial. Good word.
That's a 10-point word. Good job. That's the best, because I typically will launch into this with asking how you're doing, and you're just doing great, doing well, doing this. I'm jovial. That's jovial. Fancy. I like that. And you also have hands down the best shirt so far of any of my episodes.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. You know, Fridays are always the Hawaiian shirt Fridays.
I love that. That's so good. That's just good culture right there. What's new in your world? What have you been up to?
Obviously working a lot, getting the ball rolling over here at Miles-McClellan, and then doing a lot of training. I've got my Ironman 70.3 coming up here in Michigan on September 14th. So a lot of swimming, a lot of biking, a lot of running. I
follow you on Instagram, and I see you doing things at these like ass crack of dawn hours in the morning, getting out there and swimming, and I'm like, when you're driving towards something, you go all in. I love that.
Have to. You know, it's I don't want to get out there and not be able to finish.
Yeah, right.
I signed up for the race in January so that I could just motivate myself the entire year to, like you said, go all in and go as hard as possible.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's fantastic. Well, you and I have been on a very similar mission here in Columbus to establish, mental health and well-being in construction is just the norm. This is just what we do. And I've been driving away at it. Speaking of driving away at things and just like, we're doing this and we're making it happen. We're doing it around this as well. We're taking that same ethos that you do for training for a marathon or whatever, and we're doing it around mental health and construction. And I love that. And I love the work that you do, and you do it uniquely. And also you have a very unique position too, around veteran support and how to do that in the industry and how to do it really well, because you yourself are a combat vet. So I want to explore. There's so much to explore. There's so much. Oh man, this is so exciting. This is going to be really fun. Okay. How long, when did you get in? So from the time that you left, when you were active duty and you came home and you dove into construction, like, talk to me about that transition and like, how did that all go? How did you get into construction? What was that flow?
Yeah. So, the way it all started out was, construction actually was my backup plan. I planned to go to school, get my bachelor's degree, and then attend Marine Corps OCS, Officer Candidate School, and then upon completion of that, commission as an officer after college. But like they always taught us in the Marine Corps, you always have a backup plan just in case something doesn't work out. My plan with the Marine Corps did not work out for one reason or the other. Didn't work out, so that's why I was thrilled to make sure I went to school for something I was actually interested in.
Yeah.
So the construction industry, I mean, I've always been interested in it. I worked some residential construction before I was in the Marine Corps. And to me, it's very fulfilling to be a part of something, building something from the ground up, especially in the healthcare sector. Building a hospital gives me so much more fulfillment versus, building something like a warehouse, because I know its purpose will be to help people and, provide the best care possible for my community. So I get a lot of self-fulfillment. Buildings are tangible things. I know my wife just loves hearing when we drive around town, me going, hey, I built that building. Hey, I worked on that building there. Yeah, she knows all the projects I've worked on here in Central Ohio. That's for sure.
Well, and there's that big one down. So if anybody's familiar with Columbus, there's a big artery road that's 315 that cuts straight down the middle of the city. And there is a very, very, very large hospital that just kind of juts out of nowhere. Kind of removed from downtown, but it's the new Wexner Tower, and you ran safety on that, and most of the whole damn thing, like you were there, and that's like one of the main mega projects of Columbus over the last few years has been the Wexner Tower. And so that's been really cool. And that's something that's very easy to go and see and point at and be like, hey, I got to help be a part of that. That's like one of those. I do that to my family all the time. Like, hey, I've been in that a whole bunch. And they're like, we don't care. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's so funny, but for us, it's just cool because we've been able to be just a part of, the creation of that thing that we all get to see. That's awesome. So you had a little bit of construction experience before you even went into the military. Okay.
Yeah, I did some residential construction, and
I didn't even know that.
It's crazy thinking about what I do now and working in safety within construction. And, over 20 years ago when working residential construction, I mean, it is a whole different ball game than it is.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's what I'm sure it has to be. I watch movies. This is the difference in how construction has changed over time. It's really funny. And maybe it's still this way. I don't know. But I watch, like Katie and I will go in and watch TV shows. I don't know whether you and Heather do this too, but we'll watch TV shows from like the early 2000s, like Gilmore Girls. That's Katie's one to go to. I like it too. It's a great show. Or like she's on Desperate Housewives right now. She loves that show. Yeah. And these were all made in the early to mid 2000s. And whenever construction is depicted, folks aren't wearing high vis and stuff in those. They're all wearing like denim shirts. They're wearing hard hats. So that icon has stayed the same, but like high vis and stuff like that and all those requirements, I don't know whether it was just because like it wasn't as stringent or strict or the standards weren't there. You're the safety guy. You can probably tell me this, but like construction depicted in shows and movies 20 years ago or 25 years ago, it doesn't look like job sites now.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And it's funny that you said that because I think it was maybe like 2 years ago, Heather and I were watching Home Improvement. Yeah. Tim the Toolman Taylor.
Man. Wilson.
We were watching an episode that was from like 1996 or 97. And they were talking about they're going to go to a job site and walk some beams with some iron workers.
Yeah.
They had the iron workers come on the Tool Time show, and they're like showing them how to like walk on the beams and where to like place your feet and everything. And then they go to the job site, and like there are iron workers on these beams walking around not tied off to anything. And some of them are actually wearing body belts, which have been illegal since 1998. But
amazing.
They're wearing body belts. And I'm like, well, that was the safety norm back then.
That's wild to me. And you can speak to that because you're the safety guru, like the evolution of safety and the really recent history. Like that's the last 25 years. We're talking Home Improvement. I grew up watching that show, and seeing the difference in all of this. It's just wild to see, you got your start in construction before you were in the military. I'm sure it has changed drastically since those days when you were first helping, like what you said, build homes. Doing residential stuff.
Yep, all residential.
Wow. That's wild. That's crazy. Oh, that's super fun. It's an interesting thing from a safety standpoint. We talk about the advent of OSHA, in the 70s, and that being this but it has evolved even so much even since then. And there's little evidences of that, and that's kind of one of them.
Yeah, that's why I think it's cool. Like when you watch something from the 80s, the 90s, and you're like, oh, that's not how it is now.
That's not even. That's I tell Katie, and she was just like, aren't they supposed to be like wearing vests? And I'm like, I'm really proud of you for actually calling that out. Yes, they should be wearing some kind of a high vis for sure.
It's funny. My wife drives around too, and she'll see like people working on rooftops and be like, they're not wearing any fall protection. And I'm like, oh God, hopefully they don't fall.
I love it. Like it's like our families are learning by osmosis, And I'm not even a technical safety guy. I've got my OSHA 30 and I've been through 510, so I can spot some stuff. I've been around it, but like I don't have an eye like you, where you can go on a job site and immediately see like standard. That's not being met. That's not being met. We got to do this. We got to do that. That's like you have a gifted eye for that because this is literally what you do.
I don't know if it's a gift or a curse.
Because now you're driving around. You're like, oh no, this is a nightmare everywhere you go.
Oh, especially like when we travel internationally. Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
Some of
I
the
know.
standards in other countries. I'm like, oh, good Lord.
Yeah, I know. Oh, for sure. Absolutely. My gosh. Okay. So the other side of you, I'm going to deviate a little bit from the questions for a second because I did want to ask this too. You are an advocate in everything that you do, like for veteran advocacy, mental health advocacy. That's how you and I met. So your advocacy, where was that born? Is that something that came about when have you always been an advocate for people? I know that like there's veteran advocacy, but like in general, like whether it's in construction or veterans or just people in general, that's just who you are. Where did that come from?
It came from my, I would say probably it came from my upbringing. My mom was an immigrant that came from South Korea. She came to the U.S. In the early 70s, and she grew up in Korea. Even though it was South Korea, a lot of my lineage, I found out, recently due to 23andMe, found a lot of my lineage comes from North Korea. A lot of my family escaped North Korea and went to the South. But my mom grew up in a Korea where it was illegal for women to wear jeans, so she never wore jeans until she came to the United States. She still doesn't know how to ride a bike to this day because it was illegal for women to ride bikes in Korea. They were viewed more as property than actual human beings. But my mom coming to the U.S., she made me appreciate a lot of the things that I had. She was giving me the life that she never had. She would always, tell me to be a good person, be kind. You never know what somebody else is going through. You don't know their background. You don't know where they came from to get there. So you should just respect everyone and treat everyone the way that you want to be treated.
Wow.
So I think that came a lot from my mother, and just seeing her care for me, especially coming to another country. Can you imagine moving to another country where you don't even know the language and you're trying to make a life for yourself there?
Yeah.
And she had some bumps in the road along the way. She had to learn a lot. Learn a lot coming to the U.S. because it was a lot different. It was almost basically culture shock for her.
Sure.
Coming to the United States, but I mean, like I said, it's been a bumpy road for her. She's been married 4 times, but her most recent marriage, they've been married for over 30 years now. So
wow, good for them. That's amazing.
She landed with the right person.
Yeah.
And even what she does now, her whole life is about giving back and helping people. So she's just been that way her entire life, and she instilled a lot of those in me at a young age. So it's hard for me to not care for people.
Yeah, it's in your roots. It's just who you are. And I think I like to ask that question for folks because, like, especially for the folks that I know, like, I know you, like, I'm introducing you to like more people out on the internet right now, but like, I know you, and it's like you do, you care for people on a very deep level. And so to me, I love to hear about like the motivation for that. Where does that come from? Because not everybody just finds that part of themselves. I think everybody's capable of it. I've talked with other folks about this before, but I believe on a fundamental level, every single person on this planet is capable of good. Yes. And capable of caring for people around them. But for the folks that really have fully dove into that and found that, I love to figure out, like, I love to hear how did you get there? Yeah. In a world that is so divisive and so hard, like how these people that are helpers, that's why this is called Paul Lawson Chats and Podcast for Helpers. I'm talking to helpers, and you are a helper. How did people become that? That's why I asked that question a bunch. Yeah. And I want to just elaborate a little further on that. Yeah, sure. My time in the Marine Corps, especially deployed to Iraq, and seeing some countries that don't have what we have in the United States. I mean, it really makes you appreciate where we live. And that's why I like to challenge people and say, hey, if you've never been outside of the United States, you should get outside the United States. Oh, yeah. Get out. See how the rest of the world lives.
and understand like what we have here. I do think we have the greatest country on the face of the planet
For
because
sure.
I mean the opportunities that it afforded my mom.
Yeah.
Like I said, an immigrant who came here not knowing a single word of English, being able to make her way. And oddly enough, her first job that she had was sewing American flags.
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
Wow. Symbolic of that. That's
Mhm,
incredible.
mhm.
That's amazing. Is she around here?
No, she lives in Massillon, Ohio. Up
Okay. Massillon.
northeast. Yep.
I know
Yep.
where that is. Okay. That's awesome, man. That's fantastic. No, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's incredible. Now, those roots have permeated the work you do as well. So, one of the questions I wanted to tackle, and I think is just fascinating, safety is a part of construction that carries its own stigma. A lot of people, like the second that they see somebody like safety walk on site, it's the safety cops. They're going to come tell me to put my gloves on and blah, 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 and tell me to get down from there, whatever. You have flipped safety culture on its head by incorporating well-being and mental health. And it's known for that. Like the sites that you go to, what you built over at Wexner, and when you were with Walsh Construction, and what you're now building into Miles-McClellan, where you're at now. Tell me about your mindset with safety and how you plug mental health into it and how that affects your programming.
Yeah, yeah. I believe you have to punch people in the face with it. It's kind of a harsh way to put it, but if you think about it, you really do have to punch people in the face with it. We have to. Yeah, go ahead.
It's like marketing. What's the marketing rule of thumb? You have to see something 7 times before it'll stick.
Yep. Yeah.
Is that the same? That's the same thing. You got to punch people in the face with messaging.
Yeah, you have to punch people in the face with messaging, what you're trying to do,
Yeah.
and really, really, really put a focus on it. There are, as you know, there are some people and companies still out there in the construction industry who still don't want to acknowledge that we have an industry-wide epidemic happening right in front of our faces.
Sure. Yep.
So many people and companies out there like that. They want to turn a blind eye to it. They want to have the blinders on. They want to focus on construction. But, you can't have a construction company if you don't have workers or people, the guys swinging the hammers and turning the wrenches for you.
Yeah.
So I make sure everyone that comes onto one of my job sites, everyone that is a new hire at my company, I make sure that they're provided with the mental health resources that are available out there. Like, hey, know about this. Hey, here's what our employee assistance program says. Did you know that these resources are available for you? So in orientation, at the job site or at new hire orientation, I have a QR code on one of the slides that everyone has to scan it because it creates a contact card in their phone with my contact information.
Yep.
You have my cell phone number. You have my email address. You have multiple ways of getting a hold of me. And I challenge them to use it because I will answer. I mean, I make that promise to them. That's my commitment to them. I don't care if it's a weekend, it's a Sunday, it's a holiday. I don't care if it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sleeping in the middle of the night. I will answer my phone, and I will make sure that you get the help that you need. So we let them know that every voice matters, including theirs. Every single voice matters, and the resources work if they're used. And I want to make sure that they understand that these resources are out there, and it's okay to talk about it. You and I both know that construction has had that stigma for so long. And I think you got the ironworker video where he's like, yeah, I love my job. I don't have to think about the wife, the kids, the mortgage, none of that.
Leave your feelings at home because they don't belong here. That's the exact quote from there. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that may have been the case in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, but here in 2025, going into 2026, we realize that is not the way to focus on mental health or even provide a culture of care and show people that we care.
Yep.
Anybody who knows me knows that I care about every single person on my project. And if they don't, I challenge them. Hey, come spend a day with me.
Prove me wrong.
Yeah. See what I do, because you're going to see my entire day is about helping
That's
people.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. It is. You have it ingrains into your safety culture wherever you go, like whatever contractor you're working with, and now it's going to be at Miles and helping build that out. You've been. When did you start in safety here in the city? Like,
Let's
when did you
see.
get home from, and how long was it between when you were done in your deployment to when you transitioned into working locally?
Okay, so I came back from Iraq in 2005. I got done with my active duty time in 2007,
Okay.
and then I went into the reserves after that. But right at the end of 2007 is when I moved to Columbus to go to school at OSU.
Okay.
And so then I got into the back into the construction industry in 2009. 2009. That's when I really got back into it. Started doing internships. Going through my construction management program at OSU and starting to really network throughout Central Ohio. Yeah.
Okay, so you've seen this transition happen where, like, this was not an element in the industry, like mental health and suicide prevention and helping folks who are addicted. Like, you've watched this kind of happen over the last few years. What, you're now at 15 years of really focusing on the industry, in your post-military career. Now you are in your safety and construction career. From your vantage point, what is it? What is the most striking thing about the changes that construction has been making in the last few years since it started making mental health a focus?
Well, the biggest thing that I see is people are using it. People are reaching out. I mean, I know that I talked to you. It was a couple of years ago when I first got to the Wexner Tower. I started putting out resources and talking about mental health there, and really, letting the job site know, like, hey, these resources are available to you, and it's okay to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody's going to come down on you. There's not going to be any kind of repercussions or consequences, for using these resources. But I remember, in particular, it was the Monday before Thanksgiving, and I had an electrician safety manager approach me, and he's like, "Hey, man, I'm not trained in this stuff. I don't know how to talk about it, but." He goes, one of my guys approached me and he said his tool buddy has been talking all day about suicide statistics, and he's a traveler. He's not even from Ohio. He doesn't have any family here. He doesn't have a dog or a cat or anything. He's not close with his family, and he's just kind of a loner.
Yeah.
But he's like, would you be able to talk to him?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I remember I talked to him for about 3 hours that morning.
Wow.
3 hours that morning. And let him know that, hey, these resources are available. We care about you. I care about you. I don't want you to make any decisions over the holiday, that's going to affect you, your family, the job site, anybody that knows you, anybody that works with you.
Yeah.
I want you to know that we care about you. And he ended up getting the help that he needed. And then in turn, he ended up becoming a huge mental health advocate on the job site. He went around telling everyone, like, hey, listen, go talk to Joel. He will help you out. Like, I needed him. He helped me out. So you guys should talk to him too, because if I need help, I know that some of you guys are out here struggling.
That story is to me representative of an industry that's changing. That it is possible to change this. It is possible to turn this around. I hear it enough. I've heard enough pushback in the last few years in the work that I've done from folks that are just like, we had this figured out already. Like, the industry's running. Why do we have to go fix what ain't broke? Because they're either not aware of the statistics around all this. They don't believe the statistics around all this. But to me, and a simple interaction story that ended up creating culture on your job site directly, boots on the ground, that to me is indicative of an industry that can change right there.
Absolutely.
That's so good. That's so fantastic. So that was going to be one of my questions, and I think we kind of covered it, was like, how have you seen situations on job sites be different because of the culture of care that you created?
Yeah. And I mean, the last job site, the last project I was on had one of the worst cultures I've ever witnessed. I mean, crazy incidents were happening daily on the job site.
When you first came in, right?
Yeah,
I remember when you first took over there. Yeah.
I mean, I came in, my first day was 4 days after a pretty major incident had happened. And then the previous 2 months before that incident happened, they had 2 other very egregious unsafe incidents happen that I've never experienced in my career, because you're supposed to have these checks and balances in place so that that stuff doesn't happen. And it's just like, oh my goodness, 3 months in a row, like we are getting awful close to a fatality happening here.
Yeah.
So you know, and it's what I was alluding to earlier. You know, our culture, we were able to shift it and turn it around because we focused on the individual industrial athlete. You know, we stopped calling them construction workers or workers.
Industrial athletes.
We started calling them industrial athletes because think about what they do. That's exactly what they are. They have a physical job. They're doing manual labor all day long, and they work in an industrial environment. You know, I'm like, let's call them what they are. They're industrial athletes. They're not construction workers. You know, that in itself has a stigma to it right there. You know, construction worker, you know, I'm sure a number of descriptive words come to mind when people think of construction workers. And even like we were talking about, look at the movies. Look at the movies and look at how construction workers are portrayed in there. They're usually catcalling women walking down the street. Yeah. They're all dirty. You know, they don't have any respect, any kind of manners. Things like that. Like that's how our society views construction.
Like the grunts and the lows of society. Like that's how they're depicted.
But it's crazy because where would our society be without those guys?
Literally nowhere. You look out and I mean the house that I'm currently sitting in right now, you know, the building that you're in right now, the building that my son is in right now at school, the daycare that my other son is in right now is all based on those quote unquote grunts and lows of society, quote unquote, even though that's not what they are. They are incredibly gifted, incredibly smart guys that are out there who know stuff and know how to do things with their hands and can do that with endurance. I think the industrial athlete term, I think, is really fascinating, and it's a really cool like term for them because like I can't do what they do.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, and we showed them that we cared, and we made sure that everyone knew they had a voice. And not just having a voice, because think about that. I'm sure you've seen on jobs where it's like, oh yeah, we want you to report stuff to us. Yeah, we want you to tell us about stuff.
See something, say something.
See something, say something. Yep. We've got our safety committee over here. They've got something similar to it that I like even much better. It's called see something, do something.
Yeah, it's good.
Like it's not just seeing something and saying something about it. Do something about it.
Just act.
Yeah, act on it.
Just act on it.
That small moment in time there could just change everything. So and so the other important part about that, you know, letting them know every voice matters, but also having the listening ear waiting for them. Sometimes guys just need to vent. Sometimes people just need to vent. They just need to get it out. They just need to get it out of their system.
That's
being that active listener, not just listening, not, you know, doing this when somebody's talking to you.
I know.
It's active listening, making the eye contact, you know, shaking your head.
That's right.
Not cutting them off, giving them the opportunity to talk. And then, you know, and I always say it wasn't me who changed the job site. It was everyone there.
Yeah.
I just listened to what they had to say and changed it based off their feedback.
Yeah, you infused the culture and they took it and ran with it.
Yeah,
and I think that's a beautiful thing, and that's on the active listening thing. That's one of the things that I realized. Like, man, there wasn't like an active listening training for construction. There wasn't one that I saw out there. There might have been something that was like general workplace or something that was like HR provided or whatever. But I was like, there's not something that's meaty for the construction industry. So I went ahead and wrote one, and I've done it a few times. And to me, it's one of those like essential skills for leaders that, like, if you are a leader and you're around people all the time and you're listening to them and you got to talk and you have to communicate all the time, active listening should just be one of your tools in your tool belt. It just has to be, you know. Without that, like, you're at a loss for potential like trust building and connection. So that's just something that, like, I see every company needs to be implementing that for their leadership folks.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I mean, the active listening part of it is so crucially important because, I mean, how many times have we seen, like, in the movies, or, I mean, maybe you've done it with your wife. I know I've done it with my wife. You know, she's paying attention to something else and I'm talking to her, and then I'll just start saying off the wall crap like, oh yeah, you know, I'm going to take the cats to the Humane Society and just leave them there. And then we won't have any more cats in the house. Right. And she's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're not listening to me. No, you're not listening. But no, it's like what you said. I mean, so much of our industry for so many decades, they haven't realized that you have to actively listen to your people. First off, you have to give them the opportunity to have a voice. But secondly, you have to actively listen to them. And all of my guys that come up that work for me, I tell them that, you know, that's one of the biggest characteristics of a leader is being able to actively listen to your people and act on it.
Yep.
You know, it's you have to do that. You have to if you're going to be successful in what you do.
Part of it. It's like an equation. Like you have to, if you are giving people permission to speak up, then when they do speak up, you have to have people or leaders that know how to provide a safe space for them to speak up and do something with that opportunity and that vulnerability. You know, if you don't have that part, then somebody's vulnerable speaks up, they have a crappy experience, and then they're not going to speak up again.
Yeah.
You know,
they're going to shut down. Completely shut down.
It's a multi-pronged approach over at Mid-City. That's one of the things we saw. Like we were giving people permission to speak up about their mental health, and we'd coach them to, like, if you want to talk to somebody about it, you can talk to me, you can reach out to the EAP. People that we knew, they were the landing spot for them if they did choose to open up would be a safe space where somebody would know how to handle that conversation and do it well. The more we trained people like foreman and our safety team, that web of support just grew to where more and more people were able to like reach out and just experience a culture of care where they were at. It didn't just have to come to me or go straight to the EAP or whatever. There was more support. And I'm like, that to me, again, indicative of a changing industry. That can happen. And I'm excited to see what you guys end up doing, how we end up doing that for you guys over at Miles, and like how we can help build that. That's going to be really cool. I'm excited about that. You are a combat vet, and you have done a ton. To me, your perspective in safety and taking care of veterans is so essential. First of all, from your vantage point, why should we be taking care of veterans in the construction industry?
Well, we know that veterans make up a large part of our industry. We're about 7% of the construction industry, and that number continues to grow. We got a lot of military veterans, and some people may or may not know, the military has a program called Helmets to Hard Hats that places outgoing veterans into construction jobs when they come off of active duty. And, you know, it's outside of, police, fire, law enforcement, EMS. It's the closest thing that you can get to that camaraderie that you had when you were in the military. And I know it's a huge thing for a lot of guys, a lot of veterans, a lot of people they get that camaraderie, and then they get out, and then they're just on the constant search for it. You know, they're going from job to job trying to find that. But it's well known in the construction industry. We're set up very similar to military. There's a chain of command. There's almost a rank structure. You have foremen, superintendents, project engineers, project managers, safety managers, engineers, things like that. But so we have a large number of veterans coming into our industry. So that's why it's vitally important.
Essential.
We know the problem that the veterans have with dying by suicide.
Yes.
There's Mission 22 is out there that talks about 22 veterans per day that die by suicide. Well, there's an updated figure that number is over 40. I was going to say
it's gone up.
It's over 40 veterans per day die by suicide. And I've told you before, it's like every year and a half to 2 years, I'm going to a funeral for a guy I served with. And the crazy part about it is, when we go to these funerals, the amount of Marines that show up, the amount of other veterans that show up. And it's like, it has us all looking around thinking, what could we have done? Could we have reached out more? Could we have done something different to help our brother? So it's, we've got that along with the construction industry, which the stress of the job, the schedules, living that life. And we all know that the military life is a stressful one as well.
Yeah.
So, that's a reason why we have to make sure that our veterans are taken care of. So it's encouraging to see companies actually starting veterans groups within their own companies now, and allowing veterans to self-identify within a company is a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Now you're starting to see companies that say, are you a military veteran? And then they have a couple questions about your veteran service. To me, I worked at a company that did that, and I remember thinking, man, that tells me veterans are something that you guys care about, that you focus on, because you want to know. You want to know who your veterans are. And and like I said, the internal groups, that's another step in the right direction, because a lot guys coming out, they're not comfortable with just talking to civilians or being in groups. They want to be around other people who've gone through it. And coming off active duty, coming from that stringent, regimented, structured military life, and then coming into a life where nobody's telling you what to do every single part of your day, and you're just in charge of your day, like, that can be overwhelming. Especially, you get somebody that comes straight out of high school and they don't know any other life, and that's the life they're coming to, and they had that and now they don't, and then they're looking for it.
Wow.
So having those internal groups, those support groups, I think is a huge step in the right direction. Partnering with the local resources, especially the local VA.
Yes.
It's a great way for companies to show their veterans that they are there to support them. Bring the VA in to give presentations about what services they offer, what benefits they offer. Because let me tell you something, you may or may not know it, but the VA has people readily available with presentations, readily available to go out into our communities and speak about these things, because they've heard the veterans out there, oh, I don't know what I'm entitled to. I don't know my benefits. Well, the VA, a lot of confusion around it. But the VA is taking steps in the right direction.
It's beneficial for people, like, go use those resources.
Absolutely.
Because then, the funds are allocated to it anyway, so go use it. That's good. That's cool. Well, I know that at Mid-City, even when we were just starting out, like, I think it was 3 years ago, we kind of realized we didn't have anything that we were doing to observe veterans. And I remember the guy who was running safety at the time, he and I kind of like started talking and thinking about, like, well, what can we do? And I think I threw out there about, like, we need to identify who folks are, know that we haven't been doing the check. I think they just had started doing the checkbox when they first got, like, were onboarded. And then, so we just did like a big survey of, like, are you, and I don't think we were strict about it. I think maybe the year after that, we were like, you have to show you, like, your, I don't know if it's a card or if it's something that shows, like, you are a military veteran. I don't know.
A veteran card. You can get that from the VA.
Sure. But either way, we had about 10% of our workforce were veterans. That was what we looked at. So we had about 50 people, maybe a little over 10%. It was like 50 people for about 400 field workers were veterans.
It's amazing.
So, and I think we did like a lunch for them, and we did like a Milwaukee giveaway, and, like, it's just, that was the first year we did anything around, like, observing veterans and supporting them, and then after that we kind of just incorporated, like, the mental health language, and always were inclusive of the veteran population as well, in that, to be able to see them as not just a cluster of the construction workforce, but they are a special group that we need to take care of, because of their background, their experience, what they've done for our country.
You talked about Mid-City having about 10%, and I spouted off the number about 7%. I truly believe that number is bigger, and I can't wait for the updated statistics, because, like, at Wexner, we were talking about earlier, we had at peak we had 1,200 people on site.
Yeah.
But we counted up, because at our job site orientation, veteran status was something that we had a checkbox on. So we went through the orientations and counted all the people we had on site. We had close to 400 veterans on site.
Oh my gosh.
It was almost a third of the job site.
Yeah.
Was veterans.
Whoa.
And then you remember that year, I was like, we're doing something for veterans. And we got the challenge coins made, which is
right.
Huge military tradition. And I got them made by the only veteran-owned and operated machine shop.
I remember. I still have my coin. Oh, yeah. I love it, man. Dude, I think that's incredible.
And I got to tell you, all the veterans that came through, they were like, I've been in this industry 20 years, and nobody's ever done anything like this for us.
See, that's it. It didn't. I mean, it's like, and what you did, you took a little bit of budget allocated from you for Walsh, and you were like, I'm going to be strategic about this to be able to support a large chunk of our workers here who go throughout their career right now not being observed, and supported specifically about their background. And it's like, you did it. And I think it kind of set a tone for, even the work that we're doing and the reverberating effect. I see more companies that are doing more with it. And I think some of that was because, earlier on, a couple years ago, you made those efforts, that made an impact, and that's just reverberated,
Yeah,
So
I can't tell you how many safety
awesome.
managers I've talked to since then, and they said, hey, can you give me the contact info for that challenge coin place that you had make those coins? I was like, absolutely.
Sure.
Give them all the
absolutely.
business.
Get them some business.
Tell them they owe me a steak dinner.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. Get a good ribeye dinner. You've seen, I always try to like focus on the future. And what I love is I'm fascinated to hear what you have to say about this, because you've seen the transition happen from back when we were not talking about mental health or anything around this topic in construction to now, especially in our little Columbus ecosystem, where we've kind of had a sandbox to play in for the last couple years. And I think that we've been making the most of that sandbox and getting this word out there and doing the most we can. But I want to hear from you and your perspective. What do the next 3 years look like?
Yeah. And I'm putting some thought to that question there, because I have to remind myself it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
You have such a good perspective on this. That's why I was excited for you to answer this.
Yeah. I think we do a great job where we are right now in 2025, moving into 2026. I think we do a great job. We've got down the awareness and the internal programming through EAPs, toolbox talks, peer supports, mental health, first aid trainings, mental health advocates, et cetera. I think the next step is all about deep integration, culture change, and probably the most important part, industry-wide collaboration. The last part is so crucial for the progression of mental health in the construction industry. And some of the steps that, we need to focus on, we need to normalize mental health like we do with physical safety. And we talked about these movies, seeing the industry, what it was in the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s. Safety was pretty much non-existent. But what job site can you go to now where you don't have to wear a hard hat, safety glasses, gloves, and high vis on your outer layer? Virtually none. So you got to normalize it, make it like physical safety, move beyond talking about it. Yeah, move beyond talking about it and make it a standard part of your job site culture. Treat it like it's PPE, fall protection, OSHA compliance. Integrate it into your daily huddles. Integrate it into your JSAs, your PTPs, your pre-task plans. Integrate it into your toolbox talks. That's what we're going to be doing for September here. And rather than separating as a special topic, I think we need to normalize it. And then, we've talked about it already. Train your supervisors, recognize and be able to address the stress, the burnout, substance abuse, alcohol abuse. Be able to, because those are, boots on the ground, like you said earlier. That's the front line of this, is our supervisors in the field, and even other people training journeymen and apprentices to be mental health advocates.
Yeah.
I think strong leadership accountability is a big part of this. Senior leaders should be measured on how well they support worker well-being, just like they do for injury rates and productivity. We hear a lot about KPIs that include retention, and that should include retention, absenteeism, EAP utilization, turnover due to stress, and not enough of this happening. Employee feedback surveys
that are done well.
Yes.
You know,
we talked a little bit about the mental health advocates, the peer-to-peer and crew level support systems. It's so important because who wants to talk to a safety director when you're a second-year apprentice? No, you'd rather talk to your foreman, or you'd rather talk to a buddy that's in your crew, a journeyman that's in your crew. So that's what I'm saying, you know, train people in mental health first aid all up and down the chain of command.
Creating that web of support.
Mm-hmm. Industry-wide collaboration. I think this is huge because we got to create cross-company mental health alliances to share resources, best practices, and again, normalize the expectations across the industry. We have to normalize it.
So good.
Trade associations, unions, they could help us champion these collective campaigns for stigma reduction and suicide prevention. I think the unions are a huge part of that for companies that are signatory with unions out there. And I think this one's huge too. Family and community inclusion. Family and community inclusion. We need to extend our resources to the workers' families because we know that financial stress, isolation, home pressures, they all directly affect mental health on the job site. They affect all of our people, but also the husbands, the people that are working, the wives working on the job sites, being gone for long hours, not being there for the kids, not being able to help out. That causes stress and mental health stress on the family as well.
Yes, it
We're
does.
extending that out, providing workshops, communication guides, family counseling access, getting their families involved, because yes, we care about you, but we care about your families as well, because your families are the ones that you're working safely for every day.
So good.
And then the last part, I think, we got to embrace technology, data-driven programs, use surveys, anonymous mental health surveys, get that employee feedback to find out and track if your program is working. Is it effective or not? Because your employees, are, especially anonymously, they're going to let you know if it's working or not. And then, again, embracing the innovation and technology, deploying apps for check-ins, mindfulness, crisis support. One thing we did at Wexner, every Monday and every Friday, we would send out positive mass text to the entire job site. Now, I don't know if you were signed up for them, but some of them would be, jokes like, hey, ladder safety has its ups and downs. Please.
I remember seeing that. I remember seeing one. You showed me that. That's good.
Yeah. So we would send out those positive mass texts. And I'll tell you, there were some people on the job site that were like, those are so dumb. What do you guys even send those out? But the vast majority of the job site are like, hey, that was great. That got my day started off right on a Monday. Seeing that funny text there, we really appreciate it. And that was also the way that we highlighted the crew of the month there as well. After we did the announcement on Monday, hey, congratulations to this foreman and their crew from this company. They are the crew of the month. Please give them the respect they deserve, because there are over 100 crews on site there at Wexner. So, yeah, awesome. a lot I just threw at you, but like I said, I put some thought to this question, man, and I was just like, we've got to start thinking about the next steps, because awareness and the internal, integration has happened. We are there. We've done it.
I agree. And I agree. And I think, and I'm excited about, so you being at Miles, where you guys are going to be building out a program where it's like, that's a sandbox for a general contractor to go and try that stuff that you just talked about, to be at a place where we can play with that stuff and experiment. That's really exciting, because I think at this point, that's where we're at as an industry. It's companies that are comfortable getting their boots dirty, putting their thinking caps on and experimenting, and providing margin and some budget for that to go and figure out what's the best way of doing this and incorporating it. So, and I think that's everything that you just spoke to about the next 3 years of our industry. That's where we're at. There's more and more companies that are playing around with this and giving it a shot and trying it. So, that's exciting. Dude, thank you for being on today.
Thanks for having me, Paul. I can't tell you how excited I was. I was really looking forward to this, and I just obviously love and respect the work that you're doing. It's so aligned with my values and my core principles. I love the work that you're doing. I obviously love you as a person and as a friend. So I was excited to be here today, man. I really appreciate you inviting me to be on the show, to be able to talk a little bit about what we do, and some of the focuses for the future to get this thing to progress where we need it to be.
Love it. Absolutely, man. How can people reach you? If people want to reach out to you and get connected to you, how can they do that? Can people just reach out to you on LinkedIn? Is that okay?
100%.
In that kind of way? Okay, that's what. So if you guys look up Johel Woodliff with Miles-McClellan on LinkedIn, get connected to him that way. Again, he's in my history with him, he's an open. If you want to come in, start asking about veterans and mental health with all this stuff and safety, open book, and just a trove of wisdom. A treasure trove of wisdom around those topics. So that's awesome. All right. Joel, thank you so much. Y'all, thank you for listening to another episode of Paul Lawson Chats, and we'll see you on the next episode. See ya.
See ya.